Welcome to this edition of the Rainer Report. We are always looking for ways to bring you some of the most relevant information. And let me just give you this kind of how we do it. From time to time, I will share this with you. We are in a continuous feedback loop with churches around North America and more around the world. There are several vehicles where we do this. We'll do a podcast and we'll get a lot of comments. We'll do a blog post, we'll get a lot of comments. We get random questions all the time on social media. And then at Church Answers, we're getting hundreds upon hundreds of questions every single week. Cool thing about Church Answers is you can ask a question anytime and you can get a response within 24 hours, usually within a couple of hours. And we've got hundreds upon hundreds, almost 2,000 people at Church Answers that are continually asking questions. We're watching the feedback come in. We have our subject matter experts. I'm very active on the forum at Church Answers, at Church Answers Central. And we're just seeing where the pain points are, where the hopeful points are. What are the things that pastors and other staff people are asking, and we're having more and more lay people at Church Answers as well because they want to see what they can do to help the church become more and more like Christ in what it does. And so this continuous feedback loop allows us to come back to you in venues such as this, the Rainer Report, and address critical issues. This one happens to be about short-term tenure. There's a little bit of debate on what the average tenure is of a pastor. It's been a long time since I've seen a study done expansively on pastoral tenure. There are a couple of things that I would say about it. It's relatively short. It's usually in the 3 to 4 year range. And secondly, it does seem to be increasing just a little bit, which is a good sign. There are different reasons for that, but it does seem to be inching up that particularly the millennials don't see the need to church hop. They don't see the next church as the greener grass and the bigger church as just the next best church to go to. So we are seeing the tenure inch up a little bit, but quite frankly, there are way too many short-term pastors. I've spoken to pastors repeatedly about this issue. Now, I want to take the spotlight off the pastors and move it to the congregation. I want to talk to the congregation. I know that we have thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands over the course of every week of lay people who are connected to what we do. And so you're listening to me. And I want to share this with you, and I hope that you lay people will then share it with others within the church. 5 ways a congregation can prevent short-term pastoral tenure. Number 1, form a liaison advocacy group. Sometimes that group is the search committee. Sometimes it is a representative of the search committee and then someone else. But the reality of it is it represents people in the church who are always seeking the best interests of the pastor and in many cases other staff people as well. The pastor knows someone that he can go to, that he can talk to about certain issues. He knows that there's a trust factor that is there between them and him. And so as a result, pastors are less likely to just say, I can't take this anymore because I don't know what's going on, or I feel tension, or people are saying this about me and I don't know why. And when it's all said and done, they don't have anybody that they can feel comfortable asking questions and going to and sharing their burdens. I recommend a liaison advocacy group. How long should it last? Well, it should have a definitive drop-off time, but I would say a couple of years. Used to say 1 year. But I would at least get them through the honeymoon phase, moving into the time of, some of the time of crisis, moving into 3rd year. And if you sense crises are developing in the 3rd year, may even extend it to a 3rd year. But form a liaison advocacy group. Be intentional, be proactive, so pastors may be desirous to stay longer. 2, start an intercessory prayer ministry for the pastor. If you've listened to any of my podcasts, if you've read anything that I've written, you know that I refer to the PIPs in my pastoral ministry, P-I-P-P-S, not Gladys Knight and the Pips, or if you watch a particular show, it was just and the Pips when Gladys Knight was not there. But the PIPs are the pastor intercessory prayer partners. We had a dynamic prayer ministry in one of my churches where I served. Francis Mason, one of my heroines of the faith, who's now with the Lord, was key in it. Pauline Maxwell was as well. And but they had this great prayer ministry. I just boldly said, do y'all mind getting maybe a few more people? And I boldly asked them let's just ask them to pray for me, because I can't lead this church on my own for a couple of minutes at a certain time every day. I think it was noon. I don't recall exactly. Well, when it was all said and done, we had over 100 intercessory prayers. How many of them actually stopped to pray at noon every day for a minute or two? I do not know, but I know a lot of them did. And it was not the easiest church. It was at times extremely tough, but those people sustained me through the power of prayer. I could sense God at work, and even though I ended up being a relatively short-term pastor because I went to be dean of a seminary and took that opportunity, it did sustain me during that time. So consider forming an intercessory prayer ministry for the pastor. Or let's say you hire a children's minister or a student ministry, people in that area also being intercessory prayers for them. I would get quarterly updates for the first 3 years of a pastor's ministry. So again, we're looking at the liaison advocacy group. If it's 2 years long, obviously you want quarterly updates for 2 years. But if you go into the critical third year, that crisis year for many pastors, it would be good to get those updates as well. So this means there needs to be a high intentionality of this group coming together, or at least some type of method of communication on an ongoing basis. That way the pastor, one of the greatest frustrations and even fears at times of the pastor is he does not know what he does not know. And he's sometimes shocked to hear what people are thinking or saying. He said, why didn't someone tell me? Now, one of the things that this pastor liaison advocacy group can do is they can have regular updates. Say, this is what we see. This is where we're going. And the pastor can say, okay, I'm in the know. I know this. Number 4, form an advocacy group for the pastor's family. An often forgotten group in churches. The spouse, the children. And most people have no idea the garbage that some of these people go through. A blog post that I wrote, we've got the show notes here to show you, is just about pastors' wives. Wrote it many years ago, and it's just painful to see what these spouses have gone through. And I couldn't believe the number of comments that came in, and even to this day, they keep coming in on a regular basis. It's almost become, even though it's a static blog, it is an active comment forum going on. It's almost become a place where they now continue to communicate with each other, these pastors' wives, again and again. You read that, it'll break your heart, but it'll also give you a sense that there needs to be advocates for the family. How is the spouse doing? How are the kids doing? Can we do some babysitting? Can we do something for you? It's really critical not only to be there for the pastor, but to be there for the pastor's family. 5, be transparent. If you're the search committee or anybody bringing in a new pastor, search committee, elder board, whatever the case may be, even if it's an appointment like in the Methodist system or something of that nature, be transparent and truthful on the front end. One of the, I hesitate to call it a lie because it's not an intentional lie, but it does become in effect a lie, is when the search committee says, we are ready for change. Well, most of the time what that means is we're ready for change until it affects me. And then once it affects me, look out. Because everybody has a preconceived notion of the type of change the pastor is going to bring to the church. And the disposition is that change is going to be something I like. Well, change is not a checklist for certain people. It's something that pastors often lead and find out that many people are resisting that change. Be transparent and truthful. Let them know the struggles of the church. Let them know what you've seen in the budget. Let them know what you've seen about critics and key groups in the church. Not all negative, of course, but positive as well. But be transparent and truthful on the front end. Pastors can handle it a lot better if you gave them upfront clarity, transparent information, and they will then know what they will be dealing with as they move forward. Okay, 5 ways a congregation can prevent short-term pastoral tenure. We've often addressed the pastors. Now we are addressing the congregation. Share this video with a lot of people in your church, especially if you're looking to see your pastor stay for the longer term. Thank you, as always, to Costco the design build firm for churches. They do an incredible job of building new churches or building new buildings out on existing churches or remodeling churches. Their design build, which means they take you from beginning to actually moving into the facility, from everything from site prep to engineering to looking at a particular location. They've worked with two of my sons. I just love the work they do. Tim Songster is the CEO. The company is named Costco, and you can reach them at churchdesign.com. That's churchdesign.com. Thank you again for being with us on this edition of the Rayner Report. We'll see you in a couple of weeks as we continue to look at critical issues that affect congregational health. See you soon.